Welcome back. So we decided by thinking about what are the objects that are interacting with Bryce that this is the force diagram.
The Bryce nyam do ngobu khari thigyo me di samlo na shadu anjo remove ma ko res remove de doju res.
But some of you had drawn a diagram that was similar to this but had a force in this direction.
Kashi remove thigyo res remove di do res hine shuk di khaju chojo ra khatyo lo na phatyo res.
Did any one of you draw a diagram of the force in that direction?
The kashi gi thanda shuk gi khaju di phatyo sha song ra kiran zu nang lo ni den khaju phatyo ngi remove thing us phatyo yo shuk.
Several people.
Mangbu yo res dinang ra.
And so let us think about that. Bryce is moving this way. Shouldn't there be a force in this way?
Bryce dijo yu gugyo dang yu ras ra pha du yu ra di du gola deni ni shuk ji gugu yo maru yes.
In order for there to be a force, we have to be able to blame an object that is exerting the force on Bryce, and that object cannot be Bryce.
The Bryce gugyo dang dosti gugyo tan la shuk ji gugu yor la ra di la du shuk gugu yor la sad khar gore ngobu ji gugu res ngobu di Bryce yong si mares.
So what object is responsible for a force on Bryce and the force going this way?
Chezan dang ngobu ji gugu yor la ra Bryce yogu chel di jo duo ra di duel ngobu khandi res ngobu khandi chagyo res sa sai kola sa shaladi it's the floor frictional force. Some of them are saying it's the floor, some of them are saying frictional force.
The frictional force, we said, is this force on Bryce by the floor.
The darshu resung ra khashige di law na shalagi Bryce la shugya yo darshu jora di imba na di ruas. No, not the frictional force they are saying. Some of them do not agree. They are saying it's not the frictional force.
So it is not the frictional force.
Darshu maruas te.
Let's think about the frictional force for a moment.
Ta thanda darshu jora di kangla ni na ngjuti si samlo ta indas.
Suppose that I have a carpet on the floor here,
Then ngju thenji ting yo acha shas.
and Bryce on the skateboard is coming this way.
The Bryce skateboard ga shuni tene pha du res.
So on which side of the wheel, on which side of Bryce's wheel will the carpet go up a little bit?
Ta thanda thenda thura di la du gala thendi tis ya phare jura di ni thanda kholu chok khandi chagyo res.
On this side of the wheel or on this side of the wheel?
Kholu chok khandi chagyo res tijo dire sujo dire phajo dire. Ye dire yun dire da kenas ta on the right this side.
So let's on which side of the carpet does the carpet go up?
Ta thentis ya ni phare jura di chok khandi resha sa ye chodri sha in khandi resh
This side.
dijo dire dos de sida.
So then that carpet is pushing Bryce that way.
Di tenjura di gi price la shu khajo gyader la no sujo gyader res. Bugya ta jura di sujo bigu res.
So this is the wheel of Bryce, and here is the carpet, and the carpet goes up a little bit like that.
Di kholo dress kholo di thanda thendi galle du gal thengi chashi di ya phargu do di chagi res.
And so that actually pushes Bryce's wheel backwards.
Di ta ani thanda Bryce ki kholo jora di ma cho bige tang res.
Okay?
Seu cha so esti.
So then, it cannot be the frictional force on Bryce by the floor that is in this direction.
Di la du gola di ani thanda cho di jo yo jora di darshu di yun sigma res.
So, what we said, if I understood it correctly, is that Bryce, to get started, he pushed on the floor.
Ta di go chu du gola Bryce ki ma shalala bu res ra.
And it is that force that Bryce carries with him as he moves.
Ta di shuk di khene ani Bryce ya phajo dre jura di gu jo ta di du yor la ras.
So, Bryce,
Yes.
could you come back here for a moment?
I think I want a skateboard without plastic on it.
So let us imagine that this is an instant with Bryce moving.
Ta Bryce yo gu chi di samsra.
Is his foot on the ground?
Bryce ki kangba di shalagang la du es. No.
His foot is on the skateboard.
Bryce ki kangba di thanda kholosh da skateboard di kam toas.
He needed to put his foot on the ground to make the ground push him to get started.
Ta di gu jo ta go chu ura. Di go chu ela Bryce ki kangba di thangbo khol thu gu re sagal thu gu re shala di kam.
But after he did that, he put his foot back on the skateboard and he was not touching with his foot on the ground.
Ta go chu tu kangba di thu ra shala ga thu res. Ta go chu che je la kangba di kya ni ya rangja khol le re skateboard ga sha res.
Therefore, if I were drawing the force diagram with his foot on the ground, I would have a force this way, but with his foot on the skateboard, I cannot have a force this way.
Kesi kangba shala ga thu e ne jo tu ju ra. Di remote thi wa ina shuk chi di jo dong shuk ju ra di thie yo res. Ta je su kha jere go su che je kangba diga shara kholo diga sha sa yo jela pha dong shuk ju ra di thie yo ma res tin. Ling ma res tin.
So, can I blame any object for exerting a force this way on Bryce?
Ta the Bryce la shuk ji gya der la ra di gya ge ngobu di re la ni ngan zo ten thue yo res. Handa. Yore, yomare. No, we cannot. Yore. He's saying yes, there is.
What force?
Ni shuk hari chai res, shuk yo ai na ngobo hari res.
그 파 거쳐 땅거라 거쳐 땅 지분들이 진 거쳐 땅이 사단 다르시기 아니 군로요라
Darshu ki res la gora.
다르실라 데니 공은 로요
So it's because of the frictional force Bryce is still moving.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to imagine that Bryce is on here.
Ta thanda dela Bryce yo shi shas ra. Bryce yo shai iba cha shas.
So rather than having Bryce put his foot down and push on the ground, I will push Bryce and the skateboard together.
Ta ngo la mai na Bryce ki kangba shala ga thu ya go chu la bi ba. Di me wa chi Bryce skateboard ga yo che ni stamates korang ki bi ba res thanda.
I'm going to give him a little push.
Jo tis tang res Bryce la.
Here it is.
Tende do sta wa nas.
What is the direction of the frictional force on the skateboard after it left my foot?
Ta kangba di bi so di kangba di thu e mas le ra da. Ma thu e ka stru da. Di ka su ani darshu ju ra. Di darshu gyasa hol gya de la na skateboard ga jar de ra. Di chok hande res. It's in the opposite direction.
This way. not in the direction in which it is going.
Ta di skateboard khod duwe me chojora di cho mai ba di do be chojora del duwe res.
So it is this way, not this way.
Di la du cho di jo chayo res phajo ma res.
So we have tried to find a force that is responsible for Bryce going this way.
Ta Bryce di jo dwe jora di la ta shuk gyagin jora di shuk nga jo chayo res nda. La. So are you asking the Bryce is still continuing to move, right?
Bryce is still continuing to move. Bryce is still continuing to move. And what I want to know is, should I put a fifth force in this direction?
Ta muthu ni dugo ra di dudugal ta shuk ji gor la du shuk nga ba ji sawa engyo thigu gu yore yo mares digan. Yo mara. No, we don't have to write fifth force.
No, because I cannot find any object that is pushing Bryce in that direction.
Shuk nga ba di thithwe yo maras thigwe khain la na ngobo ji gu gu yoras ngobo yo maras thanda.
So what we just found here is that Bryce is going this way, but the forces are pushing in the opposite direction in which he's going.
The Bryce dre khod gore gu jotani phajo du res ra ine shuk binge jora di docho shuk ge res.
What did his motion do?
Ku yogu che jora yogu di kharichi ge res thanda.
Did he speed up or slow down?
Yogu di kharichi res gyoro dore yana thero do res.
It slowed down. Before, when we attached the spring and we pulled on Bryce,
Ni ni ngajo kuba di pheju chi ras thakba da kuba harin odi gi the ras ra Bryce di.
what did Bryce's motion become?
Ta inye la thakba do kuba do di pheju chi du gala Bryce ki yogu jora di khari cha sons. It's better.
He sped up. So this is a pattern that we just discovered here.
Di dre jora tharan thanda ngajo sarngi chung res di na lai.
If the net force is not zero, the object's speed will change and it will speed up if the net force is in the same direction as the direction that the object is going, or it'll slow down if the object is going in the opposite direction to the net force.
Ta thanda ngubo jora thanda di ta du gala kyondom shuk di kisile go me bainas. Ta thanda ngubo gujo tangi jora thanda kyondom shuk da cho khajo tharan du yo aina yogu chi du gal gyokse di gyoru du yo res. Ene ngubo di kesi thanda kyondom gi shuk jora di gi khajo do be du yo na yogu chi dang di ani gyokse di theru du yo res.
So if the net force is in this direction,
kyondom shuk jora kesi khajo dinde jil yo ainas.
and Bryce is moving in this direction,
Bryce kora yogu thanda du yo ra di jo du yo ainas.
Bryce will slow down.
Ta dojo di Bryce khachir la na theru du res.
If the net force is in this direction
kyondom shuk di kesi khajo di jo ten yo nas.
and Bryce is going in this direction,
Bryce yang yogu chin du yo ra di dwe di khajo tharan du yo ainas.
then Bryce will speed up.
Bryce ki gyose di gyoru du yo res.
We have just discovered Newton's second law.
Ta thanda khari sarnye chung yor la na Newton gi tentim niwa di sarnye chung res.
The second law of Newton connects the net force that is not zero to a change in speed, either slowing down or speeding up.
Ta thanda Newton gi tentim niba jda di khari shigir la oina kyondom shuk jda di da khari dewa sugir la oina thanda ngobo yogu che jora di sugir res. Di gi yang na 교로 당겨래 야나 대로 당겨래 라지라 디차도레스.
So I would like us to write this down.
다 디키란 좀마 티로 치스라.
I would like us to change this a little bit so that we can be more precise.
다 디스 교당 부고레스. 교당나 아니 코디 딱딱 리라 탄다 니바디. 이 교당 부고레스.
If the net force is in the same direction the object is moving, the object will speed up. If the net force is in the opposite direction the object is moving, the object will slow down.
계시 견돔 슈주라. 디 아니 모부 요구 징해주라. 디기 가져 찍고 연바이나스. 아니 모부디 요구 제디 교로 두고 요레스. 계시 디 탄다 견돔 슈디 모부 요구 제기 슈기 가져다 독초 연바이나스. 아니 모부디 탄다 요구 제디 테로 두고 요레스.
So I can challenge any one of you to a tug of war.
다 니 키란조 수임바이네 다 단다 탁파 텐리 주야 진두 두레 라스 가나 무니 키란조 수임바이나.
And I guarantee that I will win.
땅아 저버친 라투 유에스 나랑이다 텐덴지 나랑 톱그레라 수냠도 들어와이나 진다디나라 나랑 톱그요 나 하고 유에스.
Who would like to take my challenge?
땅에냠도 수 두르기스 수 두르도 유에스다. Yeah. They're pointing towards him. 1, 2, 2. 페다사 gel라. gel타고테 딘두르 두르고서.
So, how is tug of war played?
다 타고테 딘두르 주야 칸데스 두르고요 레스디.
There is a rope,
탁바요 로스디나.
and we pull on the rope.
가르치길라나 탁바디 땡기 로스.
Yes? And if I go this way, I win, and if I go this way, I lose.
때 계시가 파조 드로이나 나라 톱 로스. 수조 수 템바이나 인쇼 로스.
So, you remember that was a question that came up yesterday.
때 키란조 티와지클레 소스 케사 디 팅구 도스치.
How is it possible for a little person sometimes to win over a big person?
ता कब्रे खरे लना मी ग्यापस ता कंबु जुयो आइना रो कब्रे कंबु दि थोबे योरा तिंदे युंगु दोस ति खंडे स्ट्रेस लाइक दोस.
So let me ask you a few questions.
ता किरान जुल थियो खसेज माता यस.
How does the force that I'm exerting on him I will do it with one hand.
나라 라바직 마스 비주 칭네 달라.
I will do it with one hand.
라바직 비주 치 히스.
How does the force that I'm exerting on him compare to the force that he's exerting on me?
ता स्टमरस की शुगजी गेगुरा गेलाला गेला की स्टमरस लेची गेगुरास दिनि दुरो आइना खंडे स्ट्रेस. It's zero they're saying. It's the equal force.
So they are equal forces. The force that I'm exerting on him is equal to the force he's exerting on me.
Dila du ngegi shu khagas kya wana shi gela gi shu gegyo ras chipare lagyo ras shu di.
Okay? So
Chikpa ras chikpa ras.
Very good. And now we will do the real thing.
Tamoni inda segelda. Tamoni tendu de. Tendu moni de.
did the gravitational force on our monk friend change?
다 텐슈 주라 단다 겔라 쿠슐라기 강라 텐슈 야조디 교 드로요레스 No, it does not change.
Did the gravitational force on me change?
다 스타마리스 칼라 단다 텐슈 지요라 슈 야조디 딜 교 드로요레스 No.
It is just that the frictional force between our monk friend and the floor changed.
다 카리 gyurir lawaina kushulada tanda shala jura dig para darshu jura dig gyuotoires
Whereas I had a lot of friction on my shoes.
ta ngarando chashawana ngi tha hango dila darshu yorwas
So I could push on the floor and the floor would push me this way.
ngi ma shala dila ma biya yores thanashi shala digi stamatis la ya bigu yores
But he could not push on the floor
ine kushula ma tanda shala la biya jura di bigu yores
as hard as when he was actually standing on the ground.
korangwe ni shala bala khapdu ya shaira odigo su bitwe jura tigas shuk di tanda bitu yo mares
And so I just needed to provide a net force on him so that he would start moving.
제장이 견돔 슈 지테라스 디기 깽기 아니 고슐라 요구 치레스
And so you see that the tug of war is not only a function of strength,
딜라도 땅아주 탁바 테리 줘라 딜라도 인지 미지 슈 줘라 디치불 라루기 요 마레스
but the frictional force, the other objects that are exerted on each person, is very important.
단다 톱슈 디치부 마임바체 ngobu denzugi tanda tanda ngobu denzugi tanda ngobu jora ngobu shendigal shu khagas ke median sugures
If we were doing this, both of us, with the feet on the ground,
tangaran zu niga kushula da stamatus niga kesi kambaniga shalagal janita tanda di durwai nas tendurde
he would have won.
ko tobyo sigres kushula
Because he would never have been able to push me harder than to pull me harder than I was pulling him. He would never been able to pull me harder than I was pulling him, because that is Newton's third law.
ta tenjura di kurangi ni khagas theona shi kurangi tenjura dila shukche tentu maras kaina na di Newton gi tentim sumba di chade ras
He would have won by pulling me harder than the floor was pulling me.
ta khadu thopgur lawaina kurangi ngala ten di shukte che khadu tentu lawaina tanda stamatus la shala di ma tenjura dila shukche gyatu aina kurangi tentu yores na
Even as he would be pulling me and winning, the force that he would be exerting on me would be exactly the same that I would be exerting on him.
ta stamatus ta kushula kurangi ta aina kisi kushula gi chu themba inage shuk di ta aina ni gi shuk khazu gyawa di nangshi kushula gi shuk phal gyagyo yores shuk di chikpa res
So he would not be trying to pull me harder than I was pulling him.
kurangi tabshi chigiyo mares ni khagas theona shi kurangi shuk cheru tenjura di tabshi chigiyo mares
But he would pull me harder than the floor would be pulling me.
kogi shuk cheru tendi karil durguyor lawaina ta shala gi ma tenjura dile shuk che chu ten tabshi chigiyo res
So when you go for tug of war, wear good shoes.
chezang kiranju thakba dindur jida the dela draw inas hango yabu khungu res
Did I answer the question about the tug of war that was asked yesterday?
ta kesa thakba the dindur jiya thiwaji di thiwa di seo cha suesa thanda di position okay they are saying yes one of them said no it's not clear
Would you please say more?
gela seo cha masung rani khari seo cha masung
라서 단단히 권이 함고다도 sama chipa chikchang ina ro 함고다에도 사자도 들어와. 집바 직장 있나? 집바 직장인 바 있나? 건일라 예품이 절 거라. 집함도 그라. 톰도 그라. 건이 함고다에도 집바 직장지? 아니 사자 집바 직장 지나? 간지 그 집함도 그라. 톰도 그라. 간지 차고래 돼.
Tadi shalani chikpa re hango chikpa imbai nage. So both of you are wearing the same shoes and are on the same ground, but still one wins and the other loses. How is it possible? Ale tio dikhar shalana shala thaga rang galra. Kushula da stamatus koraniga hango chikpa chikya imbai nas. Therese oi nage chik top chik short chik rasti khandes reslan tiorish.
So then, let us think about two monks. One big monk, but both of them, the other one small, but both of them are wearing the same shoes.
Ta kushoni yo chashas hango chikpa chikpa khyo res koraniga. Ine chik gyaga che chik kamba yo res.
So, I will draw a force diagram for each monk.
Okay, did you say that both the monks, like one of them is big and another small? Or
But both of them are wearing the same shoes.
In a hango chiba chicken curious. Ta kushula chigaji on Zotanda, should get your jura, the remove is.
So here is the big monk, and here is the little monk, but they have the same shoes.
Kusho church the chungashlan dishara, Kusho church the chungajures, and Koraniga hango chiba chicken curious.
The big monk will win
Kusho chair the topuras.
in this situation.
Nedan dende dojim baina, Kusho chair the topures.
So this is Tashi, this is Sonam.
Tadi ming the tashi in bacha shastra, Pajo di sonam res.
So I will draw the free body diagram for Tashi.
Tatanda remove tiya, the remove suigan tier lawana, tashi gaji tier res.
This is the gravitational force on Tashi by Earth.
Tadi ma shuk jitisa, di karalana, tenshuk res. Tenshu di call, gasa call gatherlana, tashigan gather res shuk di. Kage, ni saikola the res.
This is the force on Tashi by the floor.
Ta shalagi tashile shuk gadyo jora, di tanda gangla tungyo di sungyo res.
This is the force on Tashi by Sonam.
Di shuk di kharit sungyo lawa na, tashila sunam gi shuk gadyo jora di sungyo res sujodi.
Tashi does not move.
Tashi gujo tangyo yo ma res.
So what is the net force on Tashi?
Ta tashi gujo tangyo yo mare la roas, and kyondom shuk di kharit chag res.
0. So there is a force that is equal to this force in magnitude, in strength. That is the force on Tashi, it's the frictional force on Tashi by the floor.
Ta legor la di do chola, hangyo shuk chili roas, di shuk di kharla na, shalagi tashil gadyo tar shuk jora di res.
This is the gravitational force on Sonam by Earth. It is smaller than for Tashi.
Ta di kharla na, sonam gala, da tenshu jora, di say kula gadyo di shuk di chungyo res, di tashi da duru aina chungayo res.
This is the force on Sonam by the floor.
Ta di sonam gala shuk gadyo di res di gangdi, di shalai ya shuk gadyo jora di res.
It is equal to the gravitational force,
Di tenshu da chikpa res.
so it is smaller than this force.
Ta di pajo shuk jida di da duru aina, di le chungayo res.
This is the force on Sonam by Tashi.
Ta pajo shuk shten sa, di kharla na, sonam gala tashi shuk gya de res.
This force is the same size as that force.
Di shuk ji do di shuk se khari yor lo ina che di ta ina di da chik ba cha de res.
But Sonam is not moving and then speeds up this way.
Sonam gu yo tang ge yo ma res hine pha du res chela.
Which means that the net force is in this direction on Sonam.
Ta sonam pha dur la ra di la du gala kyondom shuk di khari cho khoyer lo ina pha cha ge yo res.
So Sonam has a smaller frictional force by the floor.
Di la du sonam la shala gi ya darshu jora di sonam gala chunga yo res.
This force is smaller than this one.
Shuk di josh to di phajo da duru ina chunga yo res.
So the net force on Sonam is in this direction.
Che zan ta kyondom shuk di sonam gala khawal le der la na khacho pha du yo res.
So Sonam will change his motion in this direction.
Che zan sunam gi kurang gi yogu gi cho jora di khawa gyurgur la na phacho gyurdu yo res.
So Sonam will start to move.
Sonam yogu che gozu res.
This force is equal to this force by Newton's third law.
Ta di shuk ji do di da di ni chikpa res di kharil tan lagor la na Newton gi tentim sumba jo dil tan lagyo res.
But because Tashi does not move, the net force is 0, so this force will be equal to that force.
Ta thanda tashi yogu chigi yo mare la ra gudyo madan du di lego chai ra kyondom shuk lego la du di da di ni chikpa gu yo res.
So less heavy things usually have less frictional force.
Ta jigo chunga yer la na chidang gi khari yer la na darshu nyunga yer la jora di yo res.
It is easier to start moving a small box than a big box.
Che za ani gam chembuj ta chunju ni duru aina ani chunju di the le la yo res yogu che le la yo res.
So there is nothing that Tashi and Sonam can do to make these forces unequal. Nothing that they can do to make these forces not equal.
Ta dini chikba mai ba chaya jora sue tashi da sonam gi kurani ngone chike chitwe yo mares.
But it is possible for Tashi not to move and for Sonam to move.
Ine khari yor la ina khari chitur la ina tashi gujo mata wache sonam gujo tang thwe dinde yo chitwe yo res.
Now, if one of Sonam's friends goes to help and pour some oil underneath Tashi's shoes,
Ta sonam gi thokbo ji le che tashi hango wala di num ji sho inas.
this force will become smaller
Ta num shedu gala di shuk ji do chung ru du res.
and Tashi will start to move.
Ani chung ru du gala tashi yogu che go zu res.
We want you to draw a force diagram.
Ta keran zo shuk remove ya engyo ti jue yens kyan zo.
For this system,
Thanda mala rodan digala.
make sure your diagram does not include any glass.
Ta remove tira dinal ne she go chaya da den zo jua di tie yo maris.
You see it?
See those.
We want you to draw two force diagrams side by side.
Ta thanda dil remove tila ra remove shugi remove ni ti gu res niga pasu yu da niga nyamdo.
One for the block,
Chik di khari ga ti gorla na thanda shing thu shish da diga le shugi remove di che.
and the other for the tray.
Ani niba di khari ga ti gorla na di dermash da diga le che res.
We will treat the tray and all the things in it as a single object.
Tanga zu di changma khari si jo chi gorla na ngobo chik himba shi chi res.
Remember, you do not need to draw all of this.
Ta thing do la remove ti du gala di chasang ti gu yo marwas.
You can draw the block and the tray with all the objects.
Kari tichor lana shing di tiya ra tushidi. Di che ani derma dida dina ngobo yo di tiya res.
Think about what objects are interacting with the object in your force diagram.
Ta remote chisa ni di ni cha de ra. An keran zo samlo na khari sha or lawa na. Ngobo khari nyam do thesha jo phensu jo le jo di khari yome ngobo din zo samlo ni sha gu res.
Think about the forces those objects are exerting.
Ta ngobo phensu jo chinge jo ra khoran su na lo shuk den zo ge jo ra di khandes ke gu me di ge samlo ni sha gu res.
Think about the strength and the direction of those forces.
Ani shuk den zo ge shuk se da thega na shi khajo khoi me di samlo ni sha gu res.
And ask yourself, do those forces add up to a net force of 0 or something else?
In keran zo tiwa khari ligir lana di kyondom shuk jo ra thanda shuk den zo changma dom bai na legor chagi do yana legor chagi mundu di ta gu res samlo ni sha gu res.
I want you to, each of you, we're going to do something a little bit different.
Ta mi re ni che res di this manda che res.
Can each of you, in your notebook, draw this?
Keran zo this manda che le di thanda di che jo ra di remove the call tool lana thidep nal thidu ruas.
And on your whiteboard, make one drawing for your entire group.
Ani karbang la thira karbang the di keran zo ruga chazangi remove chik thisharu ches.
So each whiteboard will now have one drawing representing the thinking of the entire group.
Chezan susu gi samlo na khari yomide susu thidep na thira jela ruga gi nyamdo dom ne chik thira di remove chik karbang la thiro ches.
So please turn towards the whiteboard and start making one drawing per group.
Te keran zo thanda karbang chola siro ches ra ruga gi ruga re ni karbang gal remove chik.
This is different than what we asked you to do last time.
Moila chijo da manda adres moila na changma re ba thanda su ga ji remove di themna thisa ra ta ruga gi remove chik chagra di karbang athisharu ches.
And please, everybody work together, contribute your ideas to the drawing.
Ta remote thidu gal ruga gi re lana changma phenju thudur che chora samju changma pong ne di thiro ches nyam do.
Is this object touching this?
Di ngobu ji do di la thuk des no
So what is touching this?
di la khari thuk deshas the string.
So this is being pulled by the strings.
Di thien jora thien su cha de la na thapa de kuba de res.
가스 급에도 차대에나라 이기 이 텐비 정신도 세다고 말아 거기 텐비에
So you said this string is pulling this object, right? So does it mean that this object khare shuge yo mares lagore digi thingi yo mares lagore.
다 거기 이제 텐트박이 점지지 되고라 점지지 급하게 텐비와를 시키자시는 이기 텐비와를 시키자시는 인데 텐트비 점지지 되고라
Kuba gi thingi yo laga and diga ji khar so me.
이기 텐비면
So you said this string is pulling this object. So when you said that this object is not pulling that wooden box, ani kare dijala
내 시바보다 자쳐버렸어
la.
시바바 사제트
그래서 통통이 손자로
페니데 만 페니드로에 페니드 자소 말하다
So we can say that this object is not pulling that wooden box.
That is correct.
Thingi didi mares lagora res.
바다를 봤던
This object is not pulling the box.
Taga res ngobu digi thingi yo mares. Shing
This
digi.
object,
가경일고
this object is pulling the string.
Ni ngobu di khare thingi yo lana di kubash no di thingi yo res.
The string is pulling this object.
An kuba digi khai ngobu shno di thingi yo res.
ताकि कर नील कर को सोन लाना दिली दी तसिक बॉडी कौन
जाला दिगी खुद
जाला दिको कोई आप पीछे जब दे दूस ना ती पारिल दाना दिसके बॉडी दुआ
Okay, so you said that this floor is pushing this object, but we can see that there is a skateboard in between these two objects.
We draw this diagram by thinking about Bryce and the skateboard as one object.
ngonzo gi di remove chidu kala samba na khari shar lawaina bryce ta ngobo dini ngobo chik shares
끝까지 자자바이나 인디만 켄트바기 점치까지 찍고
So when this object is being pulled by this string, why are we finding out the reasons that this object is pulling that wooden box?
Say that again.
Di gunse khari des.
나 궁금한
Thank you. Digi thank you lagoro masu.
미나 땡기미나 땡기미나 인디 마 딘도거라
Khari chugor ta ondi la.
Digi
Digi koba de chugu res. Ha. Ngobo ming tong gorda gel. Digi lan homda. Di ngobo digi di koba de chugu res laure. So this object is pulling this string. Ani
리코판 로드 디지고요. 디지고까지는 늘 시키트인도.
So he's saying it's because of its weight, it affects the movement of this box.
As we saw with the two books,
Ni ngazo thebni na thong swas, thebni pesu shaimba.
the presence of the upper book influences the force of the table on the lower book.
Dila dugala chok thebni shayo, theb thangbo diyo kanla thebni wa diga tanda chokse diga shugen te jura, shugen tigi res.
Even though the upper book does not exert a force on the table.
Ta penjun jo tagiyo, theb thangbo digi chokse diga la shugegi mares.
So imagine that you are on a busy street
Ta kira samlo na charu chas di khari do pesen ro shaw inas kyangi langa toku shujina la do res.
and there are 5 cars that are moving quickly
Langa toku shudina la modanga do res toku
and they're very close to one another.
modanga ja new res toku shudo res.
And a child runs in front of the first car
Ta poji langa ne hotome yugle res.
and the driver slams on the brakes
Motor thango di dulo yura halwa di hotome break geriwa ta res motor.
and does not hit the child.
Na kaudi pugudi la duha kya mares.
But the second car does not have enough time to stop and slams in the first car.
Ine motor niba jora dila tuzu ra mares kaila. Cheza ani motor niba di thango la kya res.
The third car slams into the second car.
Motor sumba di motor niba la kya res.
The fourth one on the third one,
Motor shiwa di sumba la kya res.
and the fifth one in which you are hits the fourth one.
Motor ngawa jora di ini shiwa la kya res. Motor ngawa na kya res.
On which car did your car exert a force?
Ta kya motor khandi la shuk kya res.
뭔가 담보 들어와.
Kira motor jura, kira motor khandi na shuk. Ngaba dina yura kira. Kira motor khandi la kya re lo. Khandi la gonda khandi la shuk kya res. On the fourth car.
On the fourth car. So the first car is responsible for the accident.
Ta dunga kya jura. Digi ta gen khinge rola na so khari cha dola na motor thangbo dirwas.
The first car created the situation
Ta dunga nedang di chai di stringe surla na motor thangbo dirwas.
but you did not exert any force on the first car. The first one did not exert any force on you.
Ine kera motor thangbo dila ke shuk gaya mares tha na shi motor thangbo digi kera motor dila shuk ke gaya mares.
So the fact that this is connected to the string is responsible in some sort of moral sense for the movement of this, but not in a force sense.
Ta ngjo samlo khidan ta hoina shuk rang la ta hoina ta chidang gi je shoy na ngjo gi ta ale di ge yo res di yama yogu che di king gi chare la jora shuking gi di lag res ina ngjo shuk rang la ta hoina ma pha baina di gi anda yogu che ki shuk tanda di singe jora shuk di gi che yo ma res shuk genge di ma res di yogu che di.
So it is the rope, the string, that pulls on the block.
Ta de thanda sing ji do di yogu che di kharjin yogu chirla na kuba di the res
And it is the string that pulls on this object.
andi kuba digi di ngobu di thank you res.
Many very good drawings I see around the room.
Ta rimu yagu mangbush thon sons di jingha na lo la.
Several groups I think are finished, and I think a few groups also need a little bit more time.
다 카셰지 단다 두저티스 망아 고고도스 카셰 참에서라 루가 카셰지.
So first thing tomorrow morning we will finish this.
다 생이 소딘 당보주라 디가 송아 주 리물 하데 요디 마 차와 체인스.
So leave your whiteboards and don't erase anything.
다 케마숲니라 단다 카리요디 랑자 샤로 체스 카르방디.
If you want to stay a couple minutes after, we will come and sit with you and look at your board together.
내가 까마 하시 젤 케란 주야 단다 미투니 나이 바이나 아주 젤 요니야 다 초그레스.
Any other comments?
And have a good dinner.
와니 셀라니 부추로 나스.
Great.